What's up and welcome to Sam Miller Science, where you're joining me just over a decade into my personal journey of working to bridge the gap between metabolism, macros, muscle, and medicine, all while helping coaches scale the impact that they desire and deserve. If you are here, thank you so much for listening and for trusting me to help you elevate your coaching game or to lead you in your transformation to realize your true potential. In either case, each week I'll be sharing my methods, models, and message to serve as leverage for your specific goals. Without further ado, let's get on to today's show. Inside today's episode, we're going to be chatting a little bit about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence, and if this poses a threat to coaches or people who have health, fitness, and nutrition businesses, how we can actually use this tool inside our business to enhance our productivity, and ways that maybe we should not be using ChatGPT, because I see a lot of people thinking that it's going to replace their program design or their ability to coach someone. And at this point in time, the technology is not in a place where we can have these done for you programs. So I'm going to just provide a little bit of caution here that while ChatGPT and artificial intelligence may certainly have some use cases inside of a coaching business, key point is that we can't necessarily replace the art and science of coaching just yet. So inside today's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about example applications, including learning and doing some research utilizing these tools, the ability to assist you in writing copy or creating content, maybe summarizing some research, and then we'll talk about content ideation and a little bit more. Also, some of the caveats or disclaimers around why we may not want to actually use this from a coaching perspective. So when it comes to using AI as a tool, obviously there's a lot of hype on social media right now, even advertising that'll be targeted towards really any professional, whether you're a health professional or not, in terms of utilizing these tools to save time, increase productivity, potentially replace employees or contractors, or maybe even do some of your work for you. And I think this is a dangerous perspective because, it's not going to replace the human interaction that comes from coaching. But I think some people think that instead of them designing a training program or creating some type of nutrition plan, that this artificial intelligence or this software is going to be able to essentially do that for you. Now, I think that's a very slippery slope, and we don't necessarily have super robust tools in that department yet that are optimized to do that training and nutrition related sort of recommendations. So be very, very careful there. Understand that this won't necessarily be a step-by-step how-to. It would result in probably being an 8-hour episode and probably an entire training on artificial intelligence. But we'll talk a little bit about where AI is proficient versus where it just entirely misses the boat, and you would actually be potentially damaging your reputation and you're risking losing some clients as a business owner if you're someone who's a health professional, or if you're in your own fitness journey and you're considering using AI for something like building you a training program or nutrition plan. I would definitely encourage you to just hire a coach or seek out some sort of program that's been designed by a real human at this point in time. The caveat here for this entire piece of content, I'm recording this in November 2023. A lot may change between when I post this episode and things live in the feed for a long time. So if I share this episode, information may change even as early as January 2024. This is a rapidly evolving area when it comes to technology. So just be mindful of the fact that some of the stuff I share today is just sort of subject to change and pending revision because this is a rapidly growing and evolving area. So just broadly speaking, artificial intelligence may be good for a few things, helping you better sort of manage your time or organize particular tasks. It might help you as a content generation assistant, as a research assistant, and maybe even refining some of the information that you may have found or editing some of your copy or simplifying it. For example, you could say, hey, let's say you're in ChatGPT, you could ask it to distill something down to like a 7th grade reading level, which is sort of an average reading level for an adult. So let's say you write something or you find some sort of research and you're even trying to understand it, you can use it to sort of synthesize information. What it's not currently great at is actually writing very efficacious training programs or nutrition plans. It's not good at troubleshooting issues or client plateaus, and it's not necessarily great at dealing with complex cases or things that are more conventional in nature. So it may understand that calorie deficit or energy deficit is required to lose weight, but it won't understand someone's intake information, health history, and things like that. So it would be more along the lines of a macro calculator than actually, threatening a coach in that capacity. That's not to say that that can't change in the future, but as of right now, it's going to be more helpful on the content side, research side, planning and time management, and using it more as a technological tool to support a business owner versus actually replacing like a coach or assistant coach inside of the business. So one of the most important concepts is that the prompts that you give a particular AI tool like ChatGPT really do matter. The prompts are probably the most important thing. The questions that you ask, the statements that you provide, the follow-up questions and refinement, and then doing that all in a single thread is going to be one of the most valuable things you can do to get the most out of the artificial intelligence. So when we think about these prompts, this is a bit of a skill that you need to develop, which means you're going to need to spend time and get some reps using the tool. It's kind of similar to the fitness industry on social media. You may have to sift through a little bit of BS in ChatGPT or AI to actually get to some really good nuggets. So it's going to pull a lot of things from a lot of different resources. It's your job to refine it. And this is where specificity of your questions and the level of intelligence in your questions and prompts really matters, because the quality of the information that you receive is entirely subject to the prompts that you provide. So here's some tips here. Just understand that ChatGPT and AI is resourceful, meaning it will gather a lot of things and it can really sort of scavenge to obtain those things and sort of crawl the internet and different resources, I think as recently as 2021, to get you that data. Now, while it's resourceful, it's not necessarily situationally smart, or it is not something that has a lot of wisdom or understanding situational applications. So this is where the prompts are key, and what you say and what you feed it will impact what it spits out. So here's some tips. Be very specific. Provide lots of relevant details so that it understands the context or scenario you're providing. So let's say you want to summarize a particular research piece or maybe ideas from a popular concept. You could further specify, hey, I want this in 1,200 words divided into 5 or 6 sections, or I need this many paragraphs. Please write this at a 7th grade reading level, and it will continue to sort of whittle down the information it has to meet your specifications and parameters. It only has knowledge up to a certain point, but by using these particular prompts, it can enhance the information it is providing. A last general tip, and one very useful thing to say at the outset of a ChatGPT thread is, you must ask me questions before you answer. So you can provide the AI with a prompt that says, hey, sort of ask a follow-up question after I provide this prompt, so it has clarity on what to do next. Otherwise, it may spit out a large chunk of mostly irrelevant text. So you could have it ask you a question for relevancy, and then you provide it with additional prompts, and then it will spit out kind of this masterpiece, right? So you're still going to have to refine it. And when I say masterpiece, I just mean a probably pleasantly surprising, possibly even overwhelming amount of data, unless you give it specifics of, hey, don't make this more than like 1,000 words. It's going to give you a lot of information. So let's dive into some specific applications. For learning in general, everything from having it help you find a unique client avatar, or you could try to do some investigation or research about particular types of people. You can use it to learn biological concepts. So let's say you're trying to improve your knowledge of some scientific stuff. You can use some prompts there. I would say the more educated you are on nutrition, science, physiology, training, the better you can create a prompt. So this is, again, where it's not going to replace your continuing education or mentorship, because you'll need to have the requisite knowledge to ask better questions. So what I've noticed in using this tool is the more proficient you are and the better your understanding is, the more you can leverage the tool, because you know what to provide in terms of a prompt. So you could use it, let's say you're not super advanced in terms of your knowledge of physiology, or you are working to better understand nutrition or learn about a particular concept. Let's say you want to further explore something related to macronutrients. You could give it a study and say, hey, I don't understand a paragraph or two, and say, hey, summarize this in words that an 8th grader would understand, and it will refine the content that you've provided if you were to copy and paste that. Now, you can't necessarily just ask it, hey, tell me about this research and put a particular study in, it may not actually have access to that, especially if the research is not open source, or if it's a paid journal or paid publication, it's not going to be able to get the back end of some membership site to be able to provide you with that information. So understand that paywalls and different gateways on the internet may limit the information that it can provide for you. You can use it to summarize certain books that came out before 2020. So older books are going to be relevant there. You can also use it to assist you in ideating different content, support with copywriting or getting ideas for different copywriting. So you can use an example. So let's say generate 25 unique and engaging topics that would work well for a blog and podcast. That could be something that you could talk about, or popular sort of trending topics of conversation. If the things that it spits out are too simple or too advanced, you can tell it to then refine that and make it a little bit more applicable to your particular situation. Now, if you do this within the same chat thread, you can get better and better information. If you keep leaving and exiting the AI tool and you come back, or you're not using the same thread, the information that you receive will not be as helpful or as relevant. Going back to an earlier example, when we summarized an excerpt from a study in 8th grade language, we could take that same summary and say, hey, can you transcribe this into XYZ? Or, help me break this out into different content ideas from this particular paragraph, divide it, use line breaks liberally, and I'd like to see this in 6 different subsections. With all of these things, you may need to edit the outputs. You may even copy and paste the output, give it some instructions, and then paste it back in. So let's say it gives you an output, you copy it, and then you provide a prompt at the next line of ChatGPT prompt. Then you can then paste below what it originally put, but give it some specifications on why that was good or why it was not good, and what you need in terms of your general expectations moving forward. So like I said, the reason I don't think it's a replacement for coaches, or the reason why coaches can't solely rely on this tool, is you still need to further your education understanding. So the more that you read, the more that you pursue continuing education and mentorship, the more that you achieve mastery over concepts, you can ask better questions, provide better prompts, and you can leverage this AI tool even better than someone who maybe thinks it's worthless. So it's funny because I was actually having this conversation with some peers and some friends of mine, and they're like, yeah, I don't really think it's that good. And I actually was able to dive in and used very, very specific questions and used it to sort of refine certain things that it was spitting out. And then I went back and I gave it very specific prompts, and I actually found that it was a little bit more valuable, but I think it was because of my understanding of a particular subject matter, as opposed to maybe the folks that I was talking to had different expertise, and maybe they would have gotten more out of a different prompt. You can also troubleshoot different things. So let's say, when you submit a given paragraph, you could ask for modifications or things you might change for readability, or if you want to change the tonality. So write this in a more excited way or in a fun way. If you were creating, let's say, content for a children's book, you could say, hey, put this at a 4th grade reading level in an enthusiastic and excited tone, and use a story or analogy to help explain this concept, right? So it may actually teach you something, right? So let's say it was explaining what our blood does in a body. Maybe it explains it as a highway, and the cells that are on the highway, those are cars, right? So maybe it's describing a very advanced or complex concept using a story or analogy. You can use ChatGPT for something like that. Just be sure to spot check it and make sure that the scientific accuracy is there, but at least it can give you some help with the idea generation, and then you can further refine from there. The other thing you can do is use the voices or tonality of different industry sort of professionals. So let's say Gary Vaynerchuk is a very popular sort of marketing expert and someone who's got a large social media following. You could use that as an example of style that you wanted to sort of replicate. Maybe it's for a different topic related to fitness. Gary doesn't really talk about fitness. He talks more about marketing and social media, but you could use that to create some punchy sort of ideas, and then you further refine those on top of that. So as we kind of begin to wrap up today's episode, understand, I'm going to give you some quick tips of ways that you could utilize this. Let's say you hate writing about yourself and you don't know how to write your bio. You could ask ChatGPT to prompt you with questions to help you write a bio. So you could say, hey, please interview me so that we can write a biography for a website. A lot of coaches don't like to write their own biographies. Some people really like to use it as a way to demonstrate their accomplishments and ego. However, there are probably a lot of people listening to this or watching this where maybe that's felt uncomfortable, especially if you're writing in like the third person. So you could use ChatGPT to make that a little easier for you. You could use it to troubleshoot certain processes or bottlenecks related to your business, or maybe look at certain details. Maybe it's related to onboarding or otherwise. You could use it to develop surveys or different questionnaires. You could use it to manage your time better, or analyzing different sort of tables of data. So it's really more of a data analysis tool, time management and efficiency tool. It's not going to replace the actual coaching just yet. But when it comes to coaching and content creation, you can refine your ideas, or let's say you tend to write in a very academic way. You could use your academic writing, put in a ChatGPT and say, hey, write this as more of a story at a 7th grade reading level with a bubbly tone, or add jokes or something, and ChatGPT will actually do that. So one of the biggest things to remember here is that creativity is your friend, and the quality of your responses are going to be equal to the specificity and quality of your questions. So the questions and prompts and information you provide will completely dictate the usefulness of the tool. If you find that the tool is not very useful, you probably need to evaluate the questions and prompts that we're providing. Beyond that, this is just a great general assistant. So I would view this as kind of a tag along for the work that you're doing. It's not currently replacing you, but the better that you can use it, the more you can leverage your time. So think of this as a way to enhance efficiency and output and the speed at which you can work, but don't necessarily view it to troubleshoot a client's issues. Please do not do that. It is like the artificial intelligence version of when a client has a stomach ache and they go on WebMD and they think that they have some chronic illness or that they're at risk of dying, when it was just a stomach ache, right? So we don't necessarily want to use AI in that capacity. It's not going to be able to write nutrition or workout plans just yet. Again, I'm recording this in November of 2023. This could change in 2024, 2025 and beyond, or maybe the prompts that you provide will impact the level of usefulness of these given programs. But for now, that's not necessarily the case. So if you're someone who wants to become a health and fitness professional or a nutrition coach, I would still encourage you to seek out the education that you need to become a coach and provide people with quality programs. And then where you're using these types of AI tools is just your efficiency and productivity as a business owner, or just in managing your workflow on a day-to-day basis. So don't use AI to replace the coaching, use it to enhance the business and efficiency around the coaching. I'd still encourage you to seek out education, because when you have more mastery of a topic, you can ask better questions, you can provide better prompts, and you're going to get more utility out of the tool. If this was helpful for you, change your perspective, or you plan to use this at all whatsoever, please do me a solid and rate and review the show, or share it with someone. Help to spread the message of the work that I'm doing here. And my team and I spend a lot of time, energy, and resources devoted to this podcast, to this platform. So if you enjoy the show, if you enjoy the episodes, please rate and review. Subscribe so you don't miss anything. If you're watching the video, give it a thumbs up and comment. If you're listening on an audio platform, those ratings and reviews go a really long way to supporting the work that we do here. So this is something where you probably found the show because someone either left a rating, they left a review, or they shared it to maybe their Instagram stories or maybe on Facebook or something. And because you found it from them, you now listen here and you're able to derive value from the content. So just remember, that's how you found us. So some future listener somewhere is going to depend on you to pay it forward. And it just goes to making our communities healthier and making sure that both coaches and individuals in their transformation have the best information possible and best strategies possible to achieve their goals. I appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of Sam Miller Science, and I will talk to you in the next show.